What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. So today is Thursday, May 14th, and today we are going to be talking about healing masculine energy. So healing wounded masculine energy in men specifically. And I'm going to do this in a few steps. So we are just going to go over 7 tips to heal wounded masculine energy in men today. A quick disclaimer, I did get this off of the internet. I've just been doing some researching on my own. I am a certified life coach and relationships coach. I am not a therapist. So if you're struggling with trauma or depression, thoughts of harming other people or of yourself, that's a good time to seek a mental health and wellness professional, such as a good licensed therapist or counselor. I love you guys so much, and let's get started. Tip number 1 to healing your masculine energy is to do inner work and shadow integration. So what does that look like? That looks like confronting suppressed emotions and limiting beliefs, and then integrating them with the shadow self. I know when a lot of people think about shadow self, they think about the negative parts of themselves, and this might be true, but often doesn't necessarily have to be negative. It just comes across that way because these are the sides of you that have been suppressed. So if when you were growing up as a child, you interpreted your masculinity as being a negative thing, you speaking up for yourself, you taking the initiative and the lead, or having an opinion about something and wanting to share, you trying to start planning something and then it just being dismissed, and someone telling you, oh, you're not good at planning, you're not good at giving directions, you don't really know how to make decisions. So you've embraced this part of yourself as being bad, and so you learn to suppress it. Sometimes when that happens, when we're suppressing another part of ourselves, when it's this like wounded inner child version of ourselves that doesn't get out much, right? They end up being ignored. What happens is, it doesn't mean that it's going away. It just means this is the side of yourself that when triggered, sometimes it becomes explosive and we see that energy come out in a negative way. So maybe you really are a leader. Maybe you enjoy making decisions, but you're put in a situation where you feel like you're not being heard, and all of a sudden you start getting frustrated, and then before you know it, you're exploding, telling someone, I know how to get from A to B, and I said this 2 minutes ago. And it's not necessarily because of anything that happened in that particular situation, but for so long that side of yourself has been silenced, and so it ends up screaming to get out. So we want to take the time to acknowledge those hidden parts of ourselves and do the inner work to see, why we suppress them to begin with, and then begin to move forward and heal from there. And that brings us to, I'm just going to take my glasses off. I feel like there's a glare sometimes. So that brings us to tip number 2, embracing vulnerability. So that's learning to open up emotionally and then cultivating emotional intelligence. This can be particularly challenging for people with wounded masculine energy because we've learned to suppress how we feel. Instead of speaking up when we have an opinion about something, or if something makes us feel uncomfortable, or if someone asks us to do something and we don't want to, instead of saying, this is how I feel, or instead of saying no, we become people pleasers, or we find ourselves saying yes all the time because we've learned from our childhood that it's not okay to stand up for ourselves, that maybe we don't make decisions that are great all of the time. No one does, but that doesn't mean that you should never have the ability to express how you feel. And it definitely doesn't mean that we want to avoid setting boundaries or expressing ourselves. It's okay to say no. It's okay to say no sometimes if something makes you feel uncomfortable. And sometimes it's hard for us to recognize how we feel because we're so used to listening to everyone else's needs that we don't really know. We haven't taken the time to get to know ourselves and what we would want in any situation, what we like, what we don't like, what motivates us, because we've been in the passenger seat. So to change that, or to help with that, I encourage a lot of the people that I work with to do journaling. That can help with shadow work. Spend time in the quiet, talking with God. That is so powerful. Spending time in the quiet with yourself and your own thoughts without any background noise. So that's not, the kids are asleep, I'm going to go have a cup of coffee with my spouse. That's nice, but that's still not taking time out with just yourself to get to know you. And it's important because once we can do that, it's easier for us to understand what some of those emotional blockages are and start to open up slowly, right? To show our emotions slowly. And even if you begin doing this with a friend first, or even your spouse, whoever you're in a relationship where you know it's also a safe space, to practice with them. Ask them, tell them, hey, I'm working on saying no, or I'm working on speaking up for myself. And then you can create scenarios and go through those scenarios with that friend and practice being emotionally vulnerable. Oftentimes you'll find it's less scary than you think, right? Sometimes we can catastrophize situations in our mind, and it keeps us from moving forward because the story that we're telling ourselves is far worse than what would happen in reality. So give it a try. Being emotionally vulnerable. That's tip number 2. That brings us to tip number 3. Tip number 3 is setting up healthy boundaries without aggression. So what does this look like? It looks like if you're the type of person who's become a people pleaser and you find yourself never having any time for just you because you're always taking care of other people's needs. Setting boundaries might mean I don't do anything on the weekends from this time to this time. When I get home from this time to this time, that's my quiet time. And you want to make sure that you let the people in your inner circle, or maybe it's in your personal life, maybe it's also at work, that these are the times when you're available. And outside of those times, you'll be doing other things. You don't even have to let them know what those things are. But if they love you, if they respect you, they will learn to respect your boundaries. And this might seem like a bit of an adjustment at first. You want to reassure the person on the other end of that conversation that it's not personal, it's just something that you need. And that doesn't have to be a long, drawn out explanation that, you having boundaries isn't personal. Just a quick, it's not personal, this is just something that I need. You don't even have to ask them if it's okay. It should be okay. And over time, the people who are meant to stay in your circle, who really want good things for you, and they care about your feelings and your mental health, they will learn to respect your boundaries. Especially if, it might be especially challenging if they don't have boundaries themselves, but by you setting an example and having your own boundaries, it will encourage them to take better care of their mental health as well. Tip number 4 is reconnecting with your purpose. So that's taking the time to explore your inner values. I know we talked a little bit about this before with prayer time with God, quiet time with yourself, and then doing something like going for a walk with yourself so you can hear your own thoughts. The goal is to connect action with meaning, right? Do you feel like you're going throughout your day and you're continuously on this hamster wheel of the same routine? Nothing really has any purpose. It's not tied to any of your core values, such as giving back to your community, taking care of the environment, having a better relationship with God, working with children, traveling, working with animals. Anything that might elevate your soul and give you purpose and meaning in life is not incorporated into your day-to-day because you're so busy making sure everyone else is happy and that their needs are met. you don't have time to focus on you and what lights you up inside. So we want to make sure that we're taking the time to do that. So in addition to journaling about your day, to take the time to sit with yourself and think about what you might enjoy. And if we haven't been in the habit of doing that our whole lives, one good way to find out what lights you up to spark your creativity, so to speak, could be to try something new. That might mean fishing or painting. Maybe take some time to relax. Sometimes just giving your mind a mental break so you're not spinning your wheels trying to take care of other people all the time can help spark that creativity to help you rediscover yourself in a sense, and then find your purpose from there. So when we're looking at finding our purpose too, we want to take a look at what brings you joy when you're serving. So often your purpose is going to be tied to some sort of act of service. If it's maybe coaching a boys' little league team, or coaching basketball, or working with the elderly or the homeless population, if you take the time to research different ways that you can serve in your community, that might be a good way to start to help you find your passion. I love you guys. Okay, so that's tip number 4. Tip number 5 is mentorship and brotherhood. So we are seeking healthy relationships with other men who have healthy masculine energy, or who might be a few steps further along in terms of having a healthy masculine energy. If you were to think about anything that you're trying to work on doing or becoming, and then spending time with someone else who's already been working on it, who's been working on it for a little bit longer than you have, it can help you get there faster. It can help speed up the healing process, and then it can provide a sounding board, while at the same time keeping you accountable for the inner work that you're trying to do. So when we're looking at men when we're looking at men that we want to spend more time with, or maybe it's a man who you're thinking, oh, this man or this guy really seems to be very honest and hardworking and kind, or he has great values. I love the relationship that he has with God. I wish that I had more of those masculine character traits, to see if you can have a coffee date with that person. But then at the same time, or maybe like a bros lunch or something, or go have a bowling night with him and his wife, just to cultivate healthy relationships with other men. But then at the same time, we want to make sure that we're not attaching ourselves to someone who we know has 10 negative character traits that we don't want to pick up, and 2 positive traits. We want to make sure that it's on balance. So, and a good place to find men that you're aligned with too can also be a men's group at church, or a men's reading group, where you're able to spend time with other men who share your same values and have taken the time to do the inner work to have healthy masculine character traits. So that brings us to tip number 6. Tip number 6 is to honor feminine character traits. They are not all bad. Just like masculine character traits are not all bad, we have good and bad in both, and both men and women have both healthy masculine and feminine energy. So we want to make sure that we're taking the time to honor that, to honor emotional receptivity, to honor patience, love, intuition in the feminine energy, because that's going to help you maintain a balanced masculine energy. Embracing the healthy feminine parts of yourself will help to heal your wounded masculine energy. So when we're looking at that too, it's also going to help improve your relationship with the other men in your life, as well as the other women in your life, to be able to see where someone else is coming from, and then to not feel like you're in constant competition with other men. You will be able to better sit with your own self and your own thoughts, confident in your own masculinity. It's not determined by other people's thoughts of you. You feel less of a need to prove yourself or to hide yourself, to hide your opinion, because you know it's okay for you to be your own person. It's safe for you to have an opinion and to vocalize that in a respectful, proactive way. That brings us to our last tip, tip number 7. Tip number 7 is psychotherapy and somatic work. So here we are looking at taking therapy and breath work and using that to help us with our inner work. It's to help us, and using that to help us heal from trauma. So just as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, there are so many amazing therapists out there and life coaches too that specialize in dealing with or overcoming traumatic experiences so we can move forward in a healthy way. There are also things like tapping therapy and emotional freedom therapy. I'll try to link those down below in the description. But taking the time out for yourself to recognize that you are worth healing, that you are worth taking the time out for yourself. And if you have children or friends or people around you who look up to you, they need to see you taking care of yourself too. So you should be able to do it for yourself, but sometimes we start off taking care of ourselves for the people that we love. And God loves you the most. I love you guys so much. I hope this was a blessing to someone today, and I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.